Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, everybody. We are having here a panel about challenges and opportunities in sustainable development. And as Dr. Rashid Aleem said, sustainability is about social and environment and the economy. And with me in the panel, we have an expert mind, a cocktail that will hopefully add huge values to this combination. So we have academic background, we have economic background, and we have social background. So for the first question that we are addressing today about the challenges. Challenges are all over the world, and they are everywhere. And usually, out of the challenges comes opportunity. So let us start now with the challenges that we face today in our world, on our plants. And I will start with Dr. Mohan. So please.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's wonderful to be here, but I don't think I can start without paying my heartfelt respect to Dr. Aleem. Those who are from India, they would probably know one name, and the name of that person was Mohan Malviya. Mohan is like a noble person, and this was title given to him because he had established probably one of the best universities in India, which is called BHU, Banaras Hindu University, BHU. The same title I would like to give, in my humble opinion, to Dr. Rashid Aleem, that he is also our Mahamana. While he created a university, but he is a walking university in himself. We are grateful to you, sir.
Thank you.
Since I have already been branded and stamped as an academic, so let me use that privilege and bring out the challenge of sustainable development in a proper context. As far as we are concerned in this world, we are having 4 models of development. Model number 1 is lack of development itself, underdeveloped. And probably many countries in South Asia, Asia, and large part of Africa would be covered by that lack of development or underdevelopment or undevelopment. The features of those particular communities and countries and the ecospace is clearly, number 1, I would say, the inability to break what is known as a vicious circle. A vicious circle is that one bad thing leads to another bad thing, leads to another bad thing, and makes the original bad things bigger. So, like sometimes poverty, sometimes education, this becomes a vicious circle. Also, the second point that they suffer from is the lack of participation of the governance, lack of participation of public in the governance. I'm sorry, but many times it is banana republics, and to that extent, the citizens are unable to make any change. And as a result, the continent, the countries, the communities, they remain from or away from development. This is one model that we have at this moment. We should not forget them. The second model is development itself. Here, the development, I would put it as transformation. Like the countries which have now taken up the path of transforming themselves from a stage of nothing to a stage of something in a rapid manner. And here I would probably include the examples of India, China, Vietnam, many other countries which are transforming economies. The features of such development is that there is a huge emphasis on building infrastructure. There is a huge need for international investment, and there is a newfound respect for individual entrepreneurs. Because of these 3 forces in your favor, these communities make a better transformation faster and all that. But at this moment, only development, not necessarily well-directed development, but development. The third model that we have is what is this conference about, and that is the sustainable development. In this sustainable development, where if I have to include the countries, probably I will include a large part of Europe, and I would also use some portion of Asia also, some, but not enough, but to that extent I would say they are there. These model countries, they have certain things which the previous two lacked. For instance, they have what is known as inclusion of the people into the development mission. They also have respect for future, and they also have a kind of awareness among the citizens which is providing them the kind of energy that they need for sustainable development. Unfortunately or fortunately for us, now the fourth stage of development is also emerging, and I'm sure that what Dr. Rashid Aleem, as an innovator he is, very soon there will be something at least related to that, and that is called alternate development. Now this alternate development countries, if I have to include, probably I'll include countries like Nordic countries, that is Norway, Sweden, Denmark. In those countries where the people are looking for development based on some other features. Feature number one is innovation. Extreme amount of innovation they are doing in terms of course they are not sustaining, they are sustaining, but they're going beyond that. And then also very important thing that they are doing, which to my mind is perhaps a model we should look for, is technology. So they are using technology, they are using innovation, and that's why they are able to create an alternate model of development, which is to me sustainable development plus. Now given those particular situation, probably we need to come back to the original question that the moderator had very rightly asked, that the challenges. Each and every model that we have has its own challenges, and therefore challenging or challenges should not be categorized. Challenges should be contextualized, that in which context we are talking about. For instance, if I have to take one context of our own country, I would consider UAE as my country, even though I know that I have other passport, but this is my country for the last 10 years, and hopefully with the kind of changes the government has made, I may continue to be a resident of this country. Like Dr. Rashid mentioned, that not able to create Ministry of Sustainable Development. This is one challenge that is happening at this moment here, that we are unable to see the reality and grimness of the model that we have followed. I do not know how many of you have seen, even in Dubai, a very simple thing, which is desert safari. And if you see desert safari, the next morning, it is not a very good sight. Lots of things are lying around, thrown around, and which is creating a lot of problems of its own. So I would say that at this particular moment, we need to identify challenges based on the context you are in, rather than the concept itself. Because the concept will lead you to some suggestions, but they will not be applicable to you. So we need to bring about those things. I'll come back to that later on, maybe in the second round, if a moderator gives me the chance. Okay. I will link these things with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, especially on goal number 4 and 5. Sustainable Development Goal number 4 was education, and Sustainable Development Goal number 5 was equality of gender. I would like to put these two goals relating to the context that we have talked about.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mohan. Now let's move to the Dr. Aftab. He has over 28 years experience in the economy, in oil, gas, business. So I'm sure he can shed some lights also on the challenges in today's time. Sure. So please.
Sure. Assalamu alaikum, and good morning to all of you. Dr. Rashid Aleem, of course, he always gives surprises with a lot of books, which whenever it comes something new, I have been reading his books, and we know each other probably 26, 27 years. Mashallah. I've been here for almost 30 years in this part of the world, so this is like, as I always say, the time which I invested in India, more than that I invested here. So this is now has become my first home, like sort of. So to speak with, since my engagement, of course, as an engineer, coming from as a civil background, and then working with Tatas, starting my career, which again, and in those days I'm talking about in 80s, has seen a lot in India and seen a lot in this part of the world as well, in the Middle East. In particular, if I talk about, it's better to talk about UAE, let's start with, because as we say, like, excellency begins from home. So we should start and talk about our own country. Back in those days, when first time I arrived in this part of the world, and if I just close my eyes and start recalling, that is sustainability. The reason it is, this economy, and if I talk about, forget for a while Abu Dhabi, they are enriched with petrol, and based on that, their economy could have taken a better shape. But then give an example of those Emirates, like Dubai, for instance, which was driven by a different form of economy. And today where we are, this is a live example of sustainability as well. If I go back, again, coming on the insurance side, I'm also the Association Secretary General of UAE Insurance Business Group. And we had a sustainable insurance week, and we did that when UAE government was having the sustainable development week, when UAE government has followed. So we also were part of as insurance. And one of the things which I would like to take you there, that principle of sustainable insurance. And I thought of, like, there are speakers, they are going to talk about different line. I will touch base a little bit on the oil and gas sector, touch bit on the infrastructure and all those development which has taken. But more or less, coming from the insurance background, which is risk management, what we do. Insurance is a risk management. Here, there are things which I have to tell you that, you see, the mandatory medical insurance, when the government decided that every citizen of this country, expats living in this part of the world, tourists coming to this part of the world, they should be secured in terms of their health and well-being. This was something which was not heard in the Gulf, and everyone started following pursuit. I just came 2 months back. There was a conference in Oman, and I was the chairman of the 12th Middle East Health Insurance Conference. And it was announced, the health minister announced that we are coming in 2019 with the mandatory health insurance, and he referred UAE and Dubai in particular. Okay. So we always say that, we start from a small beginning and try to encompass the big vision. Because your first step which you are taking will lead you to your goal, to your ambition, to your vision, but definitely you have to look into that first step which you take, your positive step. That Dubai, which I am talking about, or UAE in whole, I am talking about, has taken that leap. If you go back on the Emirates Road, and I do remember there was no mountain which you see today landfill. If you, Dr. Rashid, today which you see near Sonapur, there was no mountain as such which you see today. Now we can see that, and I brought that to the notice of some of the authorities, that that is something you are filling. What next? This pile which you have brought there, what next? But you should know, and you should be happy to know that those government of UAE has come up that all the biodegradable that has to be segregated. Now the segregation started. For instance, Have you seen, I stay in ranches, so in ranches, government has come with two set of different bins. One is environment friendly, which are green, where you can segregate yourself, your household, throw away, and you put it there. And those are general one, which was not there before. This is again, these are a small, I can say tiny step, but this lead to bigger vision.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Agarwal was mentioning about desert, that people, they go there and they throw everything, and the next day, there's a pile. But for your information, I'll tell you, in 1995, Mr. Abar, when he took over the reign of Dubai Economic Department, he came from Singapore. And probably he came in 94 or something like that. He came with an idea, and there was a team that was called Think Tank. And I was blessed to be part of that strategic and steering committee, that particular time I'm talking about. Whereas the ideas which culminated, I'll give you one by one. And today, those ideas, those vision, which were small in terms of, many of them, they said, no, this is not going to fly, and had made big noise, big time, which is, for example, the global village, which you have seen. When we were talking about those days, global village, Uriyat al-Alam.
Yes.
People were talking about, what is this global village you're talking about? There's no global village, But Dubai has shown how we can bring closer to communities, in different communities. Now it is a full success. You go to, next to my home also there, the global village, which you see like a festivities or 5 months, which
yes.
goes around. So these are things what we are talking about, first of all, you had to come closer. And to come closer, you had to understand each other well, each other need. I go back again with, to give you to other speaker, but just a reference. I used to be, for a short period of time, Olympus, Japan.
Yes.
And KeyMed is England. There's a joint venture. Early days of my career, in 92, I'm talking about. I was the Middle East marketing director for Olympus KeyMed. So Middle East and Africa was my region. And I used to travel a lot. And I'll surprise you today with few findings which I have seen while traveling. For you, maybe a Somalia, when you talk about what comes in your mind, a poverty-stricken nation, that's what you think of, a nation which is suppressed in all terms. People, they are suffering with poverty, hunger. But I'll tell you, while I was there in Somalia, there is a province which is one of the richest provinces in terms of hydrocarbon reserves, which is called Puntland in Somalia. And I was there in Puntland, and our agent was the president of the Puntland itself, Mr. Hussein, who became the president of Somalia later on by election. And those areas, when I asked one question, I said, look, I can see, this particular state itself or the province itself can bring sustenance for the entire Somalia. But it's not. Because I come from a country I represent that time, I was just telling that UAE, which the father of the nation, Sheikh Zayed Marhoom, those days, he had a vision, and that vision brought the 7 Emirates together. Otherwise, we would have not been that strong as UAE, no matter as we say, good sense prevailed. Russell Khaimah joined a year later. But then today, what you say, see that. So I asked that question, that the equality, and you think like to bring these 7 together, he has paid a price. And even Sheikh Rashid together. Because those places, if you talk about a small Emirates, where they didn't have any petrodollar to spend for their own development and all. This all came from the Federal Reserves, and their hearts were big enough to share this. And today what you see, this is, in Somalia when I started, so what is there? What is lacking there? Equality, what we are lacking. So these are things which I'm just typically thinking of, like, you don't go with the book. United Nations, many of the times came together with different goals, goal number 4, goal number 5, different goals on different themes that you have always, But then you walk in your daily life, think of what best I can do today to sustain the future. Whether it be my neighborhood, whether it be in the office environment, whether it be for the country, wherever it is, Okay, I'll just pass it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we will go to the physicist of the future. Okay. Dr. Hanan
Pharmacist
Salim.
of the future.
Yeah, pharmacist of the future.
I love the question. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Rashid and for his initiative and to be part of these amazing like-minded, left-minded individuals, because we're all engineers here, and I feel I can bring a right-minded concept and ideas. I loved the question because just the wording itself challenges instead of problems. Problems creates you getting you stuck in the situation and doesn't give you vision for the opportunities and the solution. And I want to bring this from a personal experience. Even though I grew up in the US, my family migrated when I was 4 years old. And I have 25 years experience in healthcare. I'm a PhD in pharmacy, clinical pharmacist. And in one point in my life, I became the patient. Even though I was an accomplished healthcare professional, at one point I became the patient. So then what did I do? I ran to what I knew best, which was conventional medicine. And unfortunately, it didn't help, even though I was giving it to a lot of my patients. I had developed serious conditions at this time. I had developed precancerous cells in my ovaries, endometriosis, diabetes. I was blessed with a lot of stuff at this time in my life. And then when it didn't work, I ran to alternative methods, mindfulness, energy healing, hypnotherapy, and so on. And what I realized is that we, like Dr. Rashid said, that we have to start from within. We have to look for the root cause and find that on a small level and on a higher level. And what I realized is that behind every condition or disease, there's a mindset and there's a root cause and there's a story behind it. Just on a global level of the economy and the sustainability, we all have to start from ourselves, from within. What we can do for ourselves to make that movement a positive one for everyone. Because many people would get overwhelmed and see on a big scale of what can I do as a person, as one person. And it starts with you, actually. It starts with you from within. Like Dr. Rashid said, finding that passion and purpose. And through my experience on a personal level and finding it from within, I found my passion and purpose, which is not necessarily giving out drugs to people, but helping them find the root cause behind the disease and go on a natural alternative process. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we go to Dr. Hammam, who has 10 years experience in R&D. Can you share with us what are the challenges that you are dealing with day to day in the sustainability development?
Yes, first of all, dear all, good morning, and I'm really glad that I have been invited to such an event. So thanks to Dr. Rashid and the organizers and Engineer Assam as well.
Thank you.
I think the first challenge is today's challenge is to keep the time. So please feel free to stop me when the time is coming. I will be more oriented talking about sustainability from the energy perspective, not in general. So, and the best way to explain what are the challenges is to maybe a showcase. So this is something we have been, we went through it, and we would like to share with you. So talking about Allbox CSP's project in Australia, it's called, in Port Augusta, it's called Sundrop Farms. The brief description of this project is a CSP project, concentrated solar power, to generate steam, and this steam is driving MED to desalinate water, and this water is used for irrigation for a 20 hectare to produce 20% of the tomatoes production in Australia. So the project is well proven commercially, and this gave the courage for other investors to adopt such technology. But then we had some challenges in this project. So the first challenge I would conclude it as a business model type. So the business model type is very important to adopt sustainable projects. We had a problem because it was not so clear from the beginning that this business model will be like build, own, and transfer. So we stuck a little bit as a company to operate this power plant for a longer time than expected, and that's because the lack of finding someone who's encouraged to own and operate the power plant. So adopting sustainable projects and sustainable ideas is very important, that the business model should be also clear, and people should be encouraged and have awareness and culture change about what is the best business model to be adopted. The second challenge was about, in the same project, and this shows you how the policy of the country can affect your project. So in Australia, it was not allowed in this area to export electricity to the grid. So it was a standalone project, but you can only take electricity from the grid and not to export it. Okay. And this is like a pity, because although your project is producing more electricity and more energy, but you still cannot inject it to the grid. Okay. And one of the challenges that most we are meeting in our business is the awareness and culture change. It's not only for the client, but also for the companies. The companies should take the initiative and change their mindsets to be more courage to have ambitious business models also. But also the client should, because we know that it's difficult to be the first one to do anything. But gladly in the region, in the MENA region, we have UAE is always taking the first step. They are always one step ahead. And that's also very promising, because the neighbors countries are also getting encouraged whenever they see UAE is going into a new step regarding sustainability, then they are moving forward. Okay. So that's the main challenges we can see. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor. So if we can sum up the challenges, if I understand correctly, I think most of them agree that although the United Nations, they put the 17 goals of development as a guideline, we have to look for each one of us what is related to us and how can we address this problem. We need to admit that there is a problem, and we need all to work as a group or as a company or as a university to solve this problem. And alhamdulillah, in Siwa, under leadership of Dr. Rashid, we managed last year to save 2,700 tons of CO2 emission, and we were recognized by United Nations. So that, I think, is a good achievement. And also in Siwa, we are trying to stop all dependency on the groundwater, and we are trying to find innovative way to generate water from the sea that are sustainable. So that is another thing we are working on. So I think we are tied with time. So now let's go to the opportunities, to the solution. So, please to stay with the time. I will ask you to briefly state and this time I think we will start with Dr. Hanan. So, from your perspective, and what do you think?
Well, during the time, of course, when you're in a challenge, you feel like you're overwhelmed and you're unable to focus, and opportunities are very limited. But if I always tell my clients, let go and let God. You just have faith. I love this quote, when fear knocks, faith opens the door, and nobody's there. Unfortunately, a lot of people allow fear to stand before them before going through the barriers and facing the challenge, and maybe even procrastinate to finding the opportunity. But alhamdulillah, because of my dire situation, I had to have, because my cancer indicators and everything like that, I had to find a solution quickly, not for myself, but for my family and for my health. And what I realized is there is a root cause behind everything. Once we start from that place, the opportunity will show itself. Once we find the root cause behind the situation, behind whether it's healthcare, whether it's the economy, whether it's sustainability challenges, we need to go to the beginning. Basics is everything. Unfortunately, when there's a big problem, we're looking for a big solution. And sometimes the solution is very small and it's right in front of you. You just have to step back, take a deep breath, focus, and challenge and see the opportunity, because it's a sequence, right? For every challenge, there's an opportunity. And when you know that for a fact, you're not going to look at the challenge, but you're going to look behind and see where the opportunity is. But when we allow the challenge or the problem become so big that it covers any opportunity behind it, I think that's a stepping stone for anyone.
Yes.
So my message is always, always, whether on a personal level or a global level, please, let's go to the root cause behind it, solve that, and the opportunity will show itself.
Thank you, Doctor. And Dr. Hassan?
Yeah, she said every challenge has opportunity, and I'd agree as well. In the same way, I'll add there that, whenever there is a problem, there's a solution. So we should know that as well. So problems are there. We don't have to be shy in that problem. Now, we are talking about opportunities here. See, up till now, if we talk about the development which is taking place, whether you talk about education, whether it be in the environment, whether it be demography, whether it be in population, challenges are there. But at the same time, to give you an example, probably Dr. Agarwal represents India, and he comes from a country which is of 1.2 billion people. At times, I remember in my childhood, it used to be called that the population is a curse for India. I remember in my childhood, they used to say, population is a curse for India. But no, it turned out to be an opportunity for India. Why? There are three very important aspects we should know. If you go back to India, the first thing, every parents, they would like, my child should learn English. Why? The international language. Unlike Chinese, my friends. There, they also developed, but on the language, there was a barrier. And if you go to Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, Indians, they were picked from India because of the language as well. It's not like, Chinese were less than anyone else, but the language was there. So this was, again. Now second, today the country, which we were talking about a curse, more than 40% of our population is in the bracket of which you say young. If I talk about young, the new young, as per WHO, is until 60, I believe, which someone has shared with me. So I was so happy with that. So I said, okay, I'm an infant. Yes.
Yes.
So now that population itself is an opportunity. Then the third thing, which is also, again, the development, whenever you are taking, don't put yourself, I know all. You have to be adaptive to the challenges. You have to be adaptive and learn from the mistakes from others and bring home as well, if something. For instance, in UAE, many of you what is called that, when you go to Abu Dhabi on way, kilometers and kilometers you will see the plantation which was done by Sheikh
Long
Zayed.
time, yes.
Long time back. Are you seeing the difference
Yes.
of that? The environment?
Yes.
We are in a more conducive atmosphere today than what it used to be those days. Even in the desert, there was no rain. Rain sometimes for us in 4 years or 5 years if it came, and with all the salah and all these that,
Yes.
we used to think of like we are blessed. But look at that.
Okay.
So these are, I'm talking about small things, and we can name and,
So,
go on.
Small thing that will have big
So,
impact.
Yeah, big
Yes,
impact,
yes.
Cleaning, for instance. Now, the beaches, those are not the open beaches anymore, which used to be. And we are seeing now, if you go to the beaches are more cleaners, those, which was impacting a lot, just to end up with the insurance as well, because I represent, so I should say that underwriting a policy. Everybody knows, what is underwriting. And this was something which, when I came to the industry, I asked in Lloyd's, why you use the word underwriting, And this I came to know first time that, because after all, the policy when it is written, the person who signs at the down in the policy, that's underwriter, So from there it started that, terminology. Now, when we started talking about, now the atmosphere in the insurance companies is paperless. You don't need motor policy, literally, physically, the days when you used to go to an insurance company, give me the certificate, I have to register my car. Okay. No, it's not required anymore. It is all on your, either if it is with RTA or with even in Sharjah traffic,
Yes.
So everything is there paperless. These are small, tiny steps I'm talking about. Coming also on the risk management side, whenever we go for a property, I just give you a typical example. Today, Sultan bin Sulaim's, his personal property, which is one of the hotel in 5-star, which is Anantara, the Palm. This is personal, okay, which belongs to 7 Tide Group, which is his personal family, okay, and we take care of them as insurers. First time I remember, when it was building, I brought some surveyor, and I come as a civil engineer from my side, so I'm not a typical insurer, just looking into. We had a big debate, and he was telling, this is a floating asset. I said, show me where the asset is floating. It is a fixed asset. Then he said, I mean, the floating asset in the sense like it is in the sea, okay, which has major impact, which is if you draw parallel with other properties similar, which is in the mainland, okay. But then, if you go to Anantara, and I will tell you that not only Anantara, if you go in the Palm, they have surprised you. It is environment friendly. People, they have done a lot of bashing against UAE and Dubai when they were doing those days, but they did their best to keep the environment clean as much as possible, to conserve the environment there. These are the small things. We all have to think of that way.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan. And Dr. Hammam, the opportunities, the solutions from the R&D perspective?
Yes, I totally agree with both my colleagues about opportunities comes with the challenges. And I would would like to highlight the most important opportunity. Investing in sustainable projects is definitely contributing to the strategic aspects of the country. Meaning that, imagine if you are producing 20% of the tomatoes of your country, and you are running on sustainable project, then you are increasing your exportation activities to the neighbors. You are increasing your dependency on yourself. You are contributing to the food security vision. So, and these are all goals coming from the sustainable project. But it's not only to the strategic aspects of the country, but it also has the opportunity of looking at the energy and the cost of energy. And I would like maybe giving an example of PV instead of coming from CSP company, but I would like to give an example of PV. And if you are looking about the levelized cost of energy for PV, the opportunity to invest in it is so high because the levelized cost in the 5 years has decreased, in the recent 5 years has decreased 5 times. And also it goes again, not with the same rate, but it's also decreased with the CSP. The more we are adopting sustainable ideas, the more we are adopting sustainable projects, it gives a value. It gives a value and a price. So the value for the environment, I mean, imagine if you have a price unit per CO2 emission, and then will be like an official price. Then you are contributing to the environment with the money, and this is where we can connect values to the prices as well. So that's the opportunities we can see from the energy sustainable perspective.
Thank you. And we started with Dr. Mohan, and we will conclude with you. So,
honored. So I will go back to the first round conclusion that we need to find contextual solutions rather than conceptual solutions. So let's look at the context. The context that we have is that different countries have different models. So how do we take this sustainable development forward? I would go back to sustainable development goal number 4 and 5. Goal number 4 was access to education, and goal number 5 was gender equality. If we combine these two and see what are the solutions and opportunities available to us, then we should definitely look into education being driven on being given on the heels of the information technology or internet. Maybe some of us will remember the concept of open universities. Now these open universities provided very credible degrees to the students, to the housewives, to the adults, to the people who were even at a very higher level of their work, but couldn't go to the university for the purpose of getting the degree or master or something like that. Now that particular model worked, but may not work in the times to come. The dropout rate is very high. People are not very much enthused by the concept of open universities because of the distance courses, because of the correspondence courses. In order to remove this thing, for the last 12 years, a new method has come up. And I very strongly recommend it, and I very also strongly hope that the government of this country will also look into that in a different way. And that model is called MOOC model. MOOC is the acronym for what is known as mass open learning courses, where they are giving the same course to thousands of students at the same time. Sometimes even it is going into hundreds of thousands of students at the same time with one professor and almost 200 to 300 teaching assistants. Each and every person is learning from Oxford University, from Harvard University, from Yale, free of cost. In other words, there is no money involved into it. As far as the quality and credibility of that course is concerned, I have been a professor here for the last 10 years and have taught both US, Europe and Asia a number of years. I can vouch for it that it is one of the best quality courses that they have. MOOC courses. There are certain providers. One of them is called Coursera. I would very much, recommend you to think about that. If you are a serving professional, then I would definitely say, that there is a different provider called Udemy. That particular provides training courses, short-term training courses, online, MOOC, through MOOC model, which means you have to pay nothing for those courses. The only thing that you need to pay is for the certificate, and that certificate will not cost more than $50 to $100. The only problem, and which is where I would request the governments also to come into the picture, is that they are not providing what is known as accreditation. If the accreditation is not provided in the same way that you are providing it to the physical universities, physical colleges, then the model of MOOC will not be very much successful, because people will think that I'm not going to gain anything out of it. There are many countries which have gone for it. I'll just give you one example. There are social problems, there are cultural problems for women to go to the universities and all. But here is a university called Hamdan University. Now this Hamdan University I'm teaching almost like for the last 10 years. Each year the number of women education is going up. Even though there are universities meant for women in this particular country, thanks to Baba Sheikh Zayed, that he created universities only for women so that whatever cultural, social issues are there, they can be dealt with. So I asked them, then why are you coming here in this university when you have got the university designated for women? The answer was that the professor, because of the blended learning thing, that I do not have to attend 100% courses, I only have to attend some courses, and remaining courses I do online. Now this is the point I wanted to make here.
Thank you.
That please take care of this MOOC thing. Think about it a little bit more. Probably we need more Hamdan universities. Why there should be only one university like that? And why? And therefore, and the only problem, and which I would request again here, when you go for that particular model, please look into affordability also. Please look into cost part also, not just accreditation, but I'm a big votary of MOOC courses. I teach courses also through their system.
Thank you, Dr.
And I know how does it work. So I would definitely request our Mahamana Alim to look into it a little bit differently. Maybe you can include it as a part of your Alim Knowledge Center, and this can become another new growth engine for sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you. So if we can conclude the opportunities, as the respected panelists, all of them, they agreed that we should look at the root cause analysis of these problems, and we should start with even the smallest thing. We should address it all, and we should also focus on the education. And finally, as Dr. Hammam said, we should add values to the environmental solution that we save. And all of us, if you look around the world, we have countries that have population, and they have rivers, and they have fertile land, and they have industry. But when you go to the actual people, you will see them in miserable conditions. So I go back to Dr. Mohammed bin Rashid when he said in today's world, we have too much politicians and we have less managers. And I can add, we have too much politician, less manager, and less leaders, okay, such as Dr. Rashid Alim. And by that, I conclude the panel. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Standing here today, I really am honored, and I really, my words are taken away because I feel I've come a long way, and I'm actually an introvert, so to be standing here and have actually published a book and getting out my message to the world has been a great journey. And to have this as my passion and my purpose to bring it to the world about finding your root cause behind your lifestyle diseases, whether it be obesity, cancer, diabetes, endometriosis. This is a world challenge by the World Health Organization, as well as on the main list of the UN Sustainability Goals. I address number 3 and number 11. And also at the 2021 national goals and the Abu Dhabi vision of 2030. And to be on a part of this huge mission to the challenge of lifestyle diseases and to have the natural alternative instead of the protocols that I was trained in, which is, diagnosis, prognosis, lab results, drugs, and therapy, and be able to help people get to the root cause or the story behind their disease and naturally heal from the inside out. I'm not saying that drugs should be stopped or therapy or conventional medicine is wrong, but I feel that every one of us has the innate power within ourselves to heal ourselves of that story that might not have been brought on by us, but from our environment, which could be physically or psychologically. And also to unleash that power within to help has what brought me here today. I was able to lose 30 kgs in 10 months. I was 40 kgs heavier than this. I reversed all my conditions. Alhamdulillah, I have no other issues, no migraines, nothing. And it's all because of this small change and finding the root cause and healing.